How do you account for the large number of contacts?
We were sitting on the major VC tracks at the time when he came into the province in some strength, using those tracks. And consequently, we just had to have contact.
How did your men react to their first experience of conditions here in Vietnam?
Oh, very well indeed. They showed a great deal of discipline and ability and patience in sitting on these tracks and staying there as long as they did. Some of them were in ambush for as long as 3 weeks, which is a long time.
Colonel, what successes did you have?
I think our major success was that the main force VC, one of their regiments, or part of one of their regiments, came into the province with the avowed aim of interrupting the pacification program and discrediting the government, and I think our presence was so directed as to force them out of the province, and I think that's the major victory we had, in that he was unable to make any marked effect on the people of Phuoc Tuy.
What was the highlight of the operation?
Well, I think as far as we're concerned, were the 2 occasions when we were able to force him into the open in daylight in large numbers, which is something very rare here, and obviously suggests that he was a bit panicky at the time.
And do you feel the enemy will return to the area where you've been operating?
Probably yes, but not perhaps in the strength that he was in on this occasion. He will undoubtedly go back to look around just as we would. But whether he'll consider operating in that area in such strength again, of course, one would doubt.
How did your men react to their first experience of conditions here in Vietnam? What successes did you have? What was the highlight of the operation? Do you feel the enemy will return to the area where you have been operating?
Colonel Butler, the biggest single action of the operation concerned one of your New Zealand rifle companies in a bunker system. Could you describe what happened?
Yes, you know of the ambush on Route 15 put in by the 3rd Battalion of 274. It became apparent that in their withdrawal they may have come into the far west of my AO, and the Whisky Company were moving in that direction and were then directed by me to go and sweep into the area to see if the enemy were present, and if so, to clean them out. At about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, coming forward quite steadily, when they located one enemy washing himself in a stream. At about that time he contacted them, or saw them, and scuttled away into a bunker system, and then the platoon that was leading came under very heavy fire from claymores and RPGs and from light machine guns. They broke contact quickly, and we were able to get airstrikes in straight away. And we put airstrikes in until later in the afternoon, when the company went back again with 2 platoons. This time they struck the enemy with about a company plus deployed, and took quite a lot of fire, very heavy fire from well-prepared bunkers, well-concealed bunkers. So we were able to break contact again, and we continued with airstrikes through the night and with artillery. And the company went back again in the morning while I was moving another company up. But first thing in the morning, again the enemy were present, not quite as strong, and so we continued with the preparation, and we were able to get in the mid-morning into the system, and I was able to pass the Australian company, B Company, through the Whiskies while they were searching, and they chased on after the enemy, who had broken contact and gone off to the north. But it was quite a sustained operation that went on for some 30 hours, and Whisky Company were never more than 200 metres really from the bunker system right throughout, and really it was a very fine performance on their part to get in and to have drawn the fire and located the system so well, and to catch the enemy unawares as we did.
Colonel Butler, I believe the fire support base here at Diggers Rest was about to be attacked by a large enemy force one night. What happened?
I believe there was a battalion, an enemy battalion close to us the other evening. I don't believe he was out to attack us. I think more likely he had come in to be close to us so that he could slip past in the shadow of his guns, which the VC do quite often. We got evidence of his movement in the late afternoon and were therefore able to direct quite a deal of fire in and around the base and across the areas that we knew him to be occupying at the time, and consequently we caused him to break contact later on in the evening. We got airstrikes in on him during the night to the point that he engaged the air on 4 or 5 occasions with ground fire. This was a bit unusual for him, and I think that he was getting quite a bit of damage inflicted on him at that time. But he didn't penetrate our wire or cause any casualties, and in fact none of my soldiers even fired at him. We used the heavier weapons and the Air Force.
Colonel Butler, I understand it was quite a spectacular night here. Could you describe the fireworks perhaps?
Oh, it was a noisy night. We had 5 airstrikes, and they went on till 4 in the morning, and we had what they call a shadow aircraft here, which is a flying boxcar, which has a great deal of ammunition, and he expended his load twice. And we had a spooky aircraft, which is an old DC-3 full up with ammunition, and he expended once. So we had an enormous amount of fire directed into this enemy battalion as it attempted to sneak past. The primary aim of Burnham was to protect the land clearing of the ANZAC, which has been going on now for 2 months. And secondarily, of course, while we were here to keep the area clear of as many VC as we could find. Consequently, we were able to report that the land clearing has proceeded quite successfully despite the weather, this being the middle of the wet season. And to date, we have kept the AO free of the VC.
Colonel Butler, I believe the fire support base here at Diggers Rest was about to be attacked by a large enemy force one night. Could you tell us when they did move in and what evidence the enemy left behind as they moved out?
We've since found a series of trucks breaking away from the complex of about 40 plus people who are quite heavily laden, going off to the north into the area occupied by some of our allies.
What did the company find in the bunker system when it moved in, and what trace of the enemy moving out was there, Colonel Butler?
Well, we found 3 systems of bunkers connected, totaling 30 bunkers in all, 31 bunkers, all quite stoutly made, pretty new, and pretty hard to get at. Now, the enemy had been there in some strength, probably in excess of a company. There was fresh blood inside the bunkers, indicating that he had been treating and holding wounded there. We found some ammunition and small quantities of food. We had to cast around for quite a while through the damage before we got the track out, and we found a track about quite wide where they'd gone straight through the bush, and about 40 or 50 people had used it, and obviously they had been heavily laden. One could only presume they were carrying their wounded, and they must have a lot of them after the ambush and then these series of strikes we've put in against them. And they've gone out to the north, across the stream to the north of us, and are now being engaged by our allies quite vigorously in the north of this AO.
While the battalion has been actively fighting here in Bien Hoa Province, I believe you've had one of your rifle companies in a training role with a Vietnamese battalion in Phuoc Tuy Province. Could you describe this, Colonel Butler?
Yes, that's correct. Currently, D Company from this battalion are on the horseshoe position, which is just north of Dat Dai, training with the 3rd of the 52nd Arvin Battalion, and assisting them in the pacification role that they're undertaking in the Dat Dai Route 44 area. This means that my soldiers are integrating fully with the battalion and assisting them with higher forms of training and assisting them in their operational role in that area.